Minute, guys. We're recording. All right. As we like to see, this is how we do it in the office, except we're just doing it on virtual reality here. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Well, hello, everybody. I'm James Escarcega. Down on the bottom of the screen is my man, Freddie Robledo. We're usually in the office doing this, together, but we're complying with the CDC guidelines, and so are the rest of these guys here on the conference call. You've got Barry Bacon here on the upper left-hand corner of my screen here from Pasadena High School. Jimmy Zern, upper right from La Mirada. Right below him is Nick Lemus from Arcadia. Next to him is Brad Blackmore from Monrovia High School. Andy Nieto from Damien High School. And then Chris Voigt, right in the middle of the bottom there from Ayala. And Daryn Murphy, the athletic director and baseball coach at South Hills. First off, it's great to see everybody. It's great to see everybody safe. Freddie, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Well, let me get this started. And first,
please,
thank you to everybody who's joined us here this morning. I know none of us in our lifetime have ever gone through anything like this. And we don't know how long it's going to last. And I know all of you here that are on this call are, spring sports playoffs, baseball coaches, and you've all have been impacted, seniors on your team impacted. My first question, and we can go around the room and you guys can answer. And keep in mind, try to keep it to, under a minute your answer so that we can get to everybody. But, the big news of the day, there's really breaking news, is today the California Department of Education has recommended that schools remain closed through the end of the school year. That happened within the last hour. I'm not sure if all of you are aware of that or not, but that will effectively, I would imagine, end any possibility of spring sports playoffs. So let's just go around the room and your thoughts on what that means. I mean, you're educators. You probably know more than I do. What does that mean if they close it to the end of the year? Do you agree with me? Is it essentially going to end any chances of the playoffs? Go ahead. James, why don't you
which one's the right?
Coach and ask you to talk one more.
Sure. So, Chris, go right ahead, man.
All right. I don't think we're coming back. It's a shame, especially for the seniors, because they put 4 years in. And for them not to get that last goodbye, whether you win CIF or you get eliminated in the playoffs, saying goodbye on the field means something. And for them not to get that, I think, is probably the worst of everything.
Murph?
It's devastating. It's just, you go back to it's 4 years. It's weight rooms, it's ball games, it's all the meetings coming together. And as Chris said, just to not be able to end it on your terms is just something that's brutal.
Nick?
Yeah, to me, it's kind of surreal. It's like it's a bad dream or something. Like this can't really be a reality. Just to think about just think about every kid and every the juniors lost their junior year. Sophomores lost their sophomore year. Who knows if these seniors are going to get graduation or what that graduation is going to look like. It's so much bigger than bigger than baseball. But the stuff that they're losing on the baseball field is just. Yeah, it's just amazing and it's devastating.
Brad?
Yeah, I echo those sentiments also. It's completely disappointing. So much goes into it being a spring sport. The basically 9 months of preparation. Just something unforeseen that none of us would have planned on. It's pretty heartbreaking.
Andy?
Well, hey, look, I think. Again, echoing Brad and the rest of the guys, there's no doubt it's heartbreaking. But I think what it does is I think it's putting these kids in a position to take a young adult approach. Baseball has not been taken away from them, just in a holding pattern. And I think them having to rush their maturity level a little bit and having them take a young adult approach, or maybe think like a future parent and know that there's people losing their lives and there's people struggling to stay alive, that baseball has to take a back seat right now. And again, it's crushing and it's blowing and again, I feel for the seniors, And I'm sure we're all trying to make sure that our seniors are have a place to go. And I know, communicating with coaches and seeing what schools that they're being admitted to. But, baseball hasn't been taken away. It's just in a holding pattern. Unfortunately, we're kind of asking our young student athletes to kind of grow up, and take a different approach.
Jimmy, how tough is this discussion going to be with your players?
Well, that's the next big thing is how do you celebrate these guys that deserve to be celebrated? What's this do for banquets? What's this do for senior days and senior parents? And there's a lot, and I feel for our coaching community. I mean, these guys sitting here know darn well what it takes to put a season on, from the prep work to the behind the scenes stuff, administrative stuff. And then that's before you even get to our kids, who are the ones ultimately losing out on this whole thing. Is if this prolongs through the summer and kids end up going off to colleges and they're going to go off and do great, how do you celebrate them when you can't get together with them? We all have banquets at the end of the year, and which is a celebration. What happens there?
Barry?
I agree with everybody. Obviously, this is something that is not going to go away anytime quickly, because as a teacher, and most of us are, this group of kids that are underclassmen are going to go through with an education that they're missing 2 or 3 months of school. And then, like you guys said, our juniors are now going to be seniors playing varsity baseball, and they have really no experience as juniors. So baseball is going to change. Sports in general, spring sports are going to change, and it's something we're going to have to deal with. But on the other hand, like Andy said, we teach perseverance. It's time to grow up. This is something that happens in life. Bad things happen, and we got to deal with it. We got to move on.
There's Freddie, we have an additional person with us now. It's Bobby Madrid, who's on the bottom right-hand portion of the picture here from Shore High School. He's the softball coach over there who's having a pretty big year. Can you hear me, Bobby?
Yeah, I could hear you.
Just your thoughts on Freddie's news, and it looks like we're done for the year.
I know I'm devastated, and I know my seniors are devastated. Nothing more I could say except we're all crushed right now.
James, if I can ask everyone else, here was going to be kind of the topic today. I had talked to CIF State Commissioner Ron Nassetti last week in anticipation of Friday's meeting, when all the commissioners get together and they were going to decide what's going to happen to the spring sports playoffs. And the underlying tone of that conversation was that, if they probably would have to cancel, given how late in the season the schools had postponed already till the start of May. And part of the reason they wanted to do that was to sort of get out of the way and let some of the school districts or schools decide on their own were league tournaments at the end of the year possible. Could this be something that you extend into summer and are allowed to play games? I know I had a direct message conversation with Dr. Richard Sheehan, the Covina Valley Unified Superintendent, and he was saying, why couldn't you play, after graduation, if it was possible? And right now, we don't know if all this is possible. Obviously, the health and safety and the things that we're seeing every day, it's growing and growing right now. But is there some hope, or has there been some talk amongst all of you that this is something you would entertain, or that you even think it's possible? If they close schools to the end of the year, would that even be possible? I'll let you guys take it from there. Go ahead around the room again, Jimmy.
Well, I think the first one I'd ask would be Daryn Murphy, because he knows Dick really well. We were just talking about this before everybody got on. Go ahead, Murph.
Yeah, I had just texted with Dick, and thank God we have a superintendent that's very sports-minded. He was all for extending into the summer and would be supportive if obviously the 6-foot socialization stuff got lifted. Why couldn't we go into the summer? And as us personally in the Covina Valley District, I think all 3 of our high schools would gladly entertain playing some sort of tournament or some summer games. We got to give some kind of closure, something with these teams. Just feel really bad about these kids not getting a chance to put the uniforms back on. And it's strange. We're all biased towards our programs, but I feel for everybody's program. I feel for all the kids, all these coaches that are in here. I understand all the work that goes in, and it's very, very strange driving by empty fields from college to high schools on my way back and forth around town. I just wish we all can get back on the field, even if it's just one time.
I want to ask this to Nick and Barry, because you're in the same league, but from two different school districts, which means that if we were to do this, this would have to be a collaborative effort between not only your school district, between the both of you, but also with Crescenta Valley, Glendale Unified. Could you make this happen? I'll start with you, Nick.
I mean, the coaches can make it happen for sure. It's just the people above us. It's getting the okay to, just from the state all the way down, that it's okay to, the social distancing and all that stuff. If that stuff if that's given the okay, there's no doubt that the coaches would be behind it, and I don't see why schools would be against it. I don't know how you can organize it or how all that would go about, but I mean, it's just I definitely know the coaches would be behind it.
Barry?
100%. I talked to a principal, not of our school, of another school, and he was 100% of us playing their school if we could get the kids back in school. My fear is if we go into the summer, the insurance part of it, are we going to have to take out a travel ball insurance type thing to cover the kids? Because once graduation date hits, are those seniors off the books? So, but logistically, I would sit in the room with Nick in a heartbeat and put a tournament together tomorrow if they'd let us.
Brad, my question for you would be this, and Jimmy, I'm sure, and Chris, I'm sure you guys would be in the same boat, and probably with you, Andy, which is, I have floated the idea you can play the games, but it would only be players, umpires, school officials, and any attending media. That the fans and parents couldn't go because of the guidelines that were set by the CDC and the state.
Yeah,
would that be tough?
I think that if there's any chance of playing in the summer, it would have to be without fans. It would have to be with just immediate, essential, personnel, so to speak. I've talked a little bit with the coaches in my league, and the idea of maybe playing everybody one time. We have a 5-team league, so that would be 2 weeks, and then doing a round-robin tournament to at least have an unofficial league title for seniors. It would be off the books, obviously, if there's no playoffs, but it would be in uniform. And, besides transportation, we try to treat it as much as we could like a regular season contest. And that would be about the extent of what I could see happening, maybe 6 games total, 3 weeks. That's about all I could envision.
Chris, you've got Glendora in your league, you've got Bonita. So again, we're dealing with different school districts here. Could you guys make it happen?
I've talked to my athletic director, and it's something that we're interested in. I don't really know where all the other schools, where they land. I know some schools are interested, some they're not really sure. My biggest concern is how long are we out? If these kids aren't playing catch, I don't want to be responsible for rushing a kid back to play a game. And that's kind of the thing that goes back and forth with my athletic director and I. Are we going to have enough time, if this does happen, to get kids throwing again and back in shape so they can pitch without risking an injury?
Andy, if you were to get the go-ahead on this, let's say that your league says, okay, you guys are good, and everybody works it out, and you guys, how long would it take for you guys to prepare to get back on the field to play?
Oh man, hey, look, I think it's again, it's for us. We're one of 4 different. If you want to, us being the only private school in our league,
right.
You got Osos, Etowanda, and Rancho, their own separate. They're together in one school district. Then you got Chino Hills, and you got Upland, they're separate, and then we got ourselves. I think that will probably open up a can of worms that we may not want to deal with. These kids are going to be excited. They're going to be looking forward to salvaging something, and having to give them a few weeks to prepare. Are we forcing them to maybe get out of the social distancing areas and really try to speed up the process of them being game ready? Hey, I think we could probably all get our group together in a couple of weeks if we had an opportunity to kind of run, catch, and throw and do some fundamental stuff. But does that prolong the season more? I mean, I think trying to get these kids excited to get out there, does that force them to get out of the area? I don't know. I mean, I think that if we're given the green light, God willing, that would have to extend the season even more to give everybody a few weeks. Like Chris said, you don't want to rush anybody to promote injury either. So, they're going to be excited to play. And now is it going to turn into a glorified, Sunday league where, hey, we can deal with the soreness for a week because we don't have a game till next week. I think that there's a lot of different parameters. I think first and foremost, it's, hey, let's get clearance and the green light, get these kids back in a normal setting, and maybe get them back in school, get them in the classroom. Hey, I'm all for it. I think we all agree to be able to give these kids and seniors, everybody, an opportunity to kind of salvage something. I think it's a thumbs up for everybody. I just think that it's may not be the top priority right now.
Before I get to Bobby, Jimmy, you're in a unique situation where you have a player who's probably, I mean, it's safe to say he's going to be a first round pick or somewhere in the first and second round of the draft in June. Do you want him to play?
Well, if I asked him, he wants to play.
Right, but you have to look after his best interest as well
100%.
as yours.
Look, no one here is going to do anything that's going to put our kids in harm's way. I would, like anybody, do anything to put something together to get these kids a couple more games, one more game. I mean, anything. I mean, you talk to them. We're all talking to our kids and checking in. They're itching. They're dying. But again, like Andy just said, none of this can take place until we get a green light to be back at school. We're not going to be able to play baseball if we're not in school. In the summertime, again, it still comes down from the top. If this is something that's feasible, I'm all in. Our kids will be all in. In terms of Jared, who's kind of a cut from a different cloth. If he's able to throw an inning on a pitch, I mean, if anything would be a bonus type of thing. So if all of us threw one pitcher every inning, and so be it. Just as we're not going to do anything that's going to get anyone injured. Especially
Bobby, you're the only softball coach here, but you're also in a school district that's very, very conservative. And that's putting it mildly, so to speak. Montebello is not exactly the most clairvoyant, forward-thinking district we have in our area. How tough is it going to be to try to get something together for softball?
I think it's going to be tough in our district, not only because our district, but also Alhambra School District is probably just as conservative as us. So, my goal, like I told Gino, our AD, was, man, give me one team in our league, just one game somewhere in the summer where we could have a senior send off something, because, I feel for a lot of these baseball guys too. But man, I have a great group of seniors, and for us to not put on that uniform again, 11-2 before all this cut off, ranked number 1 in CIF in our division since the get-go. It's really, really hurting us right now. And like I said, man, give me any team in our league for one game, and I'll be happy.
Fred?
Yeah, so let's just share our final thoughts now. We kind of have a limited time. We want to get this up on YouTube this afternoon and let the community hear it. But I'll share my final thoughts, and we can go around the room. When they canceled the basketball state championship about a month ago, that feeling back then, and talking to the coaches, everyone thought maybe it was a little too early or a little rushed. And I know, speaking to a lot of the baseball coaches back then and softball coaches and spring sports, I think there was a feeling back then that, a couple weeks off of school, we'll be back and we'll get it going and we'll be able to do this. But as this has moved on, and you see the numbers every day, and these projections going into June, and I know it's hard. It's just hard to imagine any sports coming back anytime soon. You see Wimbledon was canceled today. The Masters has been canceled. We don't know when baseball or basketball or anything's going to come back. And I just think, for me, for all of us, I think a lot of these families, these kids have parents who maybe have lost their jobs, or some who might be going through this right now. And, if the worst thing for me is having to fight about the cancellation of spring and to listening to all of you here today. I'd much rather be doing that than to write about some of the kids coming down with this or some of their parents and those stories, because over this next month it's going to be really hard. And I hope all of you are safe and we're all doing our part. Baseball, this has never happened since World War II. I was going back in the record book. World War II, I mean, none of us, our kids, our parents, we've never dealt with anything like this in our lifetime. And it's going to be long and it's going to be hard and we've got to be disciplined. So again, I thank all of you for coming on here. And if you want to share the final thoughts, please go ahead, Jimmy, go around the room.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris. You're up.
A lot of it's been said. I feel terrible for the kids, but I think it's most important. I check in every day with them, and we got to be there for these kids off the field. And whenever we get the okay to go, we'll all be ready to go. But for right now, it's just about supporting them any way we can.
Daryn?
Yeah, I agree. I think the biggest thing is we're walking a thin line here that we all selfishly want baseball back, but it's a bigger picture. But I think going back to a little bit of, we might not be able to get us all in leagues to agree to play, or we might even, if we get anything, it might even be us just playing games against various opponents. And I'd be for that too. But ultimately, the biggest thing is I want to miss our kids, but I don't want to miss them forever, meaning something really bad happens to them or their families.
Bobby?
Yeah, I agree with all the coaches. It's tough. The same thing. I communicate with my captains every day, and just make sure they're getting their work done. It's sad. It really is sad, and I wish everybody the best this next month.
Nick, it's pretty challenging times right now, isn't it?
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, the coaches have said it over and over again. I think we all feel the same ways. It's disappointing to lose baseball, but there's a lot more going on. It's a lot more important than our game. There's a lot of people impacted, and if losing a spring season is worst case scenario, then that's not too bad. We just don't want this thing getting worse and getting out of control, and really like Daryn said, we can say we could miss them for a year, but we just don't want to miss them more than so just hope everyone stays safe and takes care of themselves and their family, and in one sense enjoys the time that they have with their family. I'm spending a lot more time with my kids, and we've had more family dinners in the last 2 weeks than we probably have in the last 2 years. So, there's some things we can take away from this to definitely be appreciative of when we get back out there of the little things in life.
Brad, that's an important point here, is that, we take the game for granted sometimes, don't we?
Yeah, and I think a lot of experienced coaches here, we've all said to the kids, don't ever take anything for granted, and you never know with injury or sickness or anything, what's going to happen. It might be your last at bat. And then it's like, there it is. I mean, it really, for these seniors, it was their last at bat, or it was their last pitch. Yeah, I think the thing that bothers the most is that you can't even really get together and have a banquet or a get together or a gathering to even like closure for your seniors or anybody, and that's what's, I think, as a coach, it's hard. You spend a lot of time with these kids on year-round basis. And playing the season is one aspect, but if we knew we weren't going to play, besides text messages and stuff, I mean, you really have no contact, and it's a different, it's a different feeling, that's for sure.
Andy, go.
Well, I think the best thing we can do as educators and coaches is to, make sure that they stay healthy mentally and physically. I think we can serve as good mentors for them to, it's been a grind on them with the parameters they're dealing with. A lot of them, all of us, right? All of our student athletes are dealing with remote learning, and they're trying to adjust to a different way of that. Hey, what about exams? What about graduation? I think that before a game gets put together, let's get these building blocks in place first, and maybe the games, right, fellas? I think keeping their, mentally strong and physically strong. I think, helping out, with their families. Maybe they have, elders living with them that maybe they can assist with. I think this, hey, if you give to the game will give back. And right now, the game's asking us to be patient, and kind of take on a different role. And we'll get back on the field, and that'll make it that much more, that much more fulfilling. And I think it's a it's a bigger picture. I think all of us put our heads together, put the game and then run. And I know we'd all look forward to it. I think let's make sure that we continue to guide our kids, to stay on top of their studies and, do some sort of physical activity that, stay fit. I think that's
Jimmy, challenging times, my friend. I miss you.
Yeah, it's like we said, I saw something the other day and it made sense about, this is the worst thing that these kids go through in their life, and they're going to be okay come adulthood when they're husbands and fathers. So true. I mean, all we can do is be a support system for them like we've always been. Now it's
You
just
can put your earphones on.
we all know the details of some of our kids and their family structures, and we got to continue to be there for them. Selfishly, you just miss the day-to-day stuff with them, right? We all know what we're talking about, just that continuous day-to-day stuff that sometimes even we take for granted maybe a little bit. Right now, we wish we had it back. And we'll get it back. Everyone's going to do their part, and it may be a little bit longer than ever, and it may be with a different look, a different group, but we'll get it back, and these guys are going to be just fine.
Harry, you've been coaching for a long time. We're learning lessons on the fly here, aren't we?
This is unprecedented, obviously, but I echo all the sentiments of my colleagues here. We signed up for this. We're coaching kids. We're just going to have to coach them a little bit differently. We're more life coaches now. And the more we check in with them and the more we support them is just going to be better for them. And if this is the worst thing that happened to them, we've seen a lot of other things that are a lot worse than this. And we just have to be there for them. We have to be stable. It's just not a curveball anymore. Now it's just life. That's our job.
Guys, I am so appreciative. I know there's some tough conversations going on with a lot of your players, and I know you have a little bit of time on your hands now, but I know I speak for Fred. We wish we were out there covering the games. There's not a day that goes by on my email account that I'm kind of not used to the fact not getting any game changer updates is something that's just not. It just still kind of hits me, so to speak, and I wish you all the best. Stay safe. Hey, I think you guys have said it the best. If this is the worst thing that can happen to all of us, we'll be okay in the end.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Hey, fellas.
Freddie, maybe on Monday next week we'll get online and we'll just do something together and kind of look at the big picture overview because we got football and everything that we still have to talk about because there's some questions there too, aren't there?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the next thing we're going to go into is how this is going to impact spring football, summer football, and that's a tough one. Football is such a physical sport where you're in your face. You probably aren't going to see players carrying water bottles during summer practices anymore. There's going to be a lot to talk about, as we get into the fall. But again, I thank all of the baseball, softball coaches that came on here today. I know it's impacting you guys the hardest. To not have a season, to not be able to finish or have banquets. We're talking about graduations, like Andy said. These are just unprecedented times. And hey, I hope we're still around. This is going to impact the newspapers too. So we'll just have to, roll with whatever punches are out there, and hopefully we all come out good and healthy on the other side.
On the positive end, Freddie, all of our all area stuff is done. We're done. We got everything out of the way. Basketball's done. Everything is done. So all we now is looking forward and going to an uncertain future, so to speak. So we thank the baseball coaches. We can't thank them enough. Me and Freddie are going to probably be back with each other either Monday or Tuesday next week. We're going to talk about the big picture here, so to speak, as we move forward to the fall. Stay safe, everybody. And again, thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, James.
Thanks, James.